Hello, my beautiful yellowbone, redbone, butter pecan, caramel, butterscotch, toffee, mocha, chocolate, cocoa exoticals. Welcome to the Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to the Exoticals United community. If you are new here, welcome. Here in the Exoticals United community, we support men and women from the following people groups: multiracials, biracials, multi-generationally mixed, and light-skinned golden people. So today I want to talk about this show, Real Housewives of Potomac, because I have seen some very problematic behavior from some of the women on there. I'm just going to start off by saying I do not support women like Giselle, and here's why. Number one, Giselle is one of those mixed women who leans into her proximity to whiteness because she has nothing else going for her. And I've unfortunately seen this pattern happen with some of the mixed race people who feel like they are less pretty or less desirable. Basically, the exoticals who haven't worked on their self-esteem, maybe they feel like they have aged out of the beauty market. Unfortunately, some of them will make fun of other mixed race women's hair textures, or they will do the same thing that Blackistan does, where they may say, "You're not that light skinned," or they will make negative comments. And the reason that Giselle reminds me of some of these types of people is because, number one, she is a Black identified MLS woman. These are the most problematic of all mixed people because if a mixed person is a monoracially Black identified person, or they are monocultural, meaning that they have only had access to one culture, and that is the Black side, not only do they have an insecurity in their racial identity and in their phenotype, but they are also going to most likely engage in Blackistan behavior, which means supporting colorism, projecting Eurocentric beauty standards onto other people. And by the way, when I use the term Blackistan on this channel, I am referring to the negative aspects of African American culture. I know that not all Black people are a part of Blackistan, and I know that not everyone fits this stereotype. But when I say Blackistan, I'm talking about things like gaslighting culture, pushing people in and out of Blackness, baby mama culture, and pretty much the worst parts of the African American community. Giselle Bryant very much comes off as Blackistan to me. And I don't know if it's because of my perspective based on where I'm from, but from my perspective, she does have an African American vernacular accent. She dates unambiguous men. She was heavily raised in the African American community, and her father was even a part of the African American civil rights movement. You can't get any more pro-Black than that. And there's nothing wrong with supporting Black people, but I have a problem with Giselle's extreme hypocrisy. First of all, Giselle refers to herself as a Black woman when she is clearly multi-generationally mixed. I don't identity police people, so I don't care what Giselle calls herself, but I had a problem in one of the earlier seasons when Giselle and Robin started policing Katie because Katie refers to herself as biracial. Katie is a biracial woman who practices Judaism due to her white parent practicing that religion. Katie is proud to be mixed. She has children by a white man, which makes her children multi-generationally mixed, and they are also biracial. Both Giselle and Robin were antagonizing Katie about the racial identity of her children, and they wanted to make it look like Katie was racist for calling herself and her children mixed. They even went as far as to say, "Well, what box will your kids check when they're filling out forms about their race?" Giselle and Robin were implying that both Katie and her children should only be calling themselves Black, and that by not doing so, they were trying to escape their Blackness. This is a typical Blackistan gaslighting tactic, and I'm not surprised that Robin and Giselle would be the ones making these kinds of comments because both of them are monocultural and they have no connection to their non-Black heritage at all. I have seen this happen with a lot of Black identified MLS people. They feel no connection to their non-Black side, so it's almost as if they become jealous when they see someone darker than them who connects to both sides, or when they see someone who looks more Black phenotypically and they identify as mixed. If you look at Katie versus Giselle and Robin, Katie has slightly darker features while both Robin and Giselle have light eyes and they wear straight blonde hair. A lot of monocultural mixed people are the main ones who police multicultural mixed people, and this is often due to jealousy. It's that mindset of, if I don't get to embrace my white side, you don't either. If I don't get to embrace my Asian side, you don't either. If I don't get to engage in my non-Black culture, you don't either. And a part of it comes from pro-Blackness, but another part of that comes from the jealousy that people experience when they are mixed race, but they didn't get to engage in their non-black side because they were guilted out of it. And so these are the mixed people who were robbed of that fluid identity. Not every mixed person has a fluid identity. If you are a monocultural mixed person, meaning you were only raised by one side of the culture, particularly the African American side, you are going to have a harder time having a fluid identity because in the black culture, they teach that if you engage in any other cultures, that you're somehow a sellout or that you are betraying your black side or that you're trying to be white. And so there's a lot of guilt and gaslighting that happens in the African American community when it comes to embracing other cultures. And I can totally see that being the case with both Giselle and Robin. If you look at them, both of them have obvious European features, so I can see how people in the black communities that they grew up in probably threw a lot of shade at them, not just for their phenotypes, but they were probably shamed out of embracing their European ancestry. So I get it. However, that doesn't mean that you have to go and shame someone else like Katie, who had a different upbringing and was not shamed out of embracing both her black and non black side. I saw that Robin recently took the DNA test and that she is 59% white. She said on Instagram that she will still claim being black, and that's her business. I don't see how that's going to help her in life, but whatever. People were arguing in the comment section saying that the reason Robin doesn't claim biracial is because she doesn't have a direct white ancestor. People were saying that all of Robin's family in the US Census listed themselves as either black or mulattoes. Okay, mulatto is biracial. That means black and white. Let's look up the definition of the term biracial. Biracial just means having parents or ancestors from different racial or ethnic backgrounds. It doesn't say you must be at least 50% white and 50% black, or that you must have one monoracial parent of another race. It just means that your ancestors are from different racial or ethnic backgrounds. If you look up that word ancestor, it means one more remote than a grandparent. That actually means someone who is farther back in your family line than a grandparent. However, here on this channel, I only use the terms mixed or biracial to describe those who have at least a grandparent of another race. I don't go as far back as great-grandparents on this channel because I believe that once your family lineage reaches a whole other racial group as close as a grandparent, there's no denying that you're mixed race at that point. Like, there's no argument. And the only reason that I put percentages on this channel or talked about grandparents was to hone in on my core audience. Because I believe that those who are around that 25% mark or more, and they have a grandparent of another race, they will have an undeniably different life experience than those whose racial mixture goes farther back into their family bloodline. Anyway, another thing I don't like about Giselle is her jealousy of Ashley. Once again, I have seen some black identified, white leaning exoticals do this to women who embrace their entire racial mixture. I've noticed that in the mixed race community, there's a lot of jealousy over who has the most fluid identity. Some people get jealous over phenotypical ambiguity, others get more jealous, I've noticed, over cultural ambiguity. So, for example, let's say you have a super light, high yellow skin tone, but you look and talk and act and sound like JT from the City Girls. Well, is your identity and your experience in the world really going to be as fluid as someone like, let's say, Zoe Saldana? No, Zoe Saldana is going to have way more of a fluid identity because of the way that she carries herself culturally. Zoe Saldana may have more opportunities and access to different cultural benefits than someone who looks and acts and talks like JT from the City Girls, but they happen to have a lighter skin tone. You know what I mean? Like, culture really trumps everything, in my opinion, when it comes to the way that you move and operate in this world. If you are heavily entrenched and trapped in one particular culture, especially if it's an underprivileged culture, such as the African American culture, you're going to have a hard time navigating throughout this world, and that's just facts. But anyway, I've noticed that women like Giselle, they'll try to one-drop rule those women into blackness, or they will make fun of the black features that these other mixed women have. I noticed that Giselle made a comment about Ashley's hair being a bush. First of all, there's nothing wrong with Ashley's hair at all. It looks great. She gets a lot of compliments on it. So much so to the point where Ashley is almost always wearing her hair in these naturally curly styles as opposed to Giselle, who constantly wears these brassy blonde hairstyles. Everyone knows that Giselle has been consistently made fun of on social media for her bad wigs, while Ashley has received a ton of praise on social media. Ashley has actually used the show to become a whole influencer, and she gets a lot of attention for her beauty. She's had lots of wealthy guys trying to date her and things like that, and it's clear that Giselle is very jealous and threatened by Ashley's beauty and confidence. I've noticed that Giselle seems to be threatened by these younger, up and coming exoticals that come onto the show. I mean, within minutes of meeting Ashley, Giselle called her a thought, and she didn't even know her. Giselle projected the typical MLS stereotype onto Ashley. And this is a very common thing that we see happening in Blackistan. Giselle very much has that gaslighting Blackistan mindset. She shames coarser hair textures. She dated and was married to an unambiguous Blackistan scamming preacher who was having all kinds of side babies. Giselle is a mixed race woman who is monocultural, and unfortunately, due to her being monocultural, she is definitely living a monocultural, unambiguous Black lifestyle. And I hate to say it in that way, but I mean, that's what happens. I mean, your culture is really what's going to determine your lifestyle. This is why I highly encourage mixed women to embrace every part of themselves and to become as cultured as possible, because you want to be able to navigate through this world. You want to be able to relate to lots of different people. You want to be exposed to many different ideas. You don't want to stay stuck in this Blackistan mindset. I've also noticed that Giselle does the same thing that women in Blackistan do, where they obsess over other people's relationships because they're not happy in their own relationships, or they don't have a relationship. Giselle has even bragged about liking men who have been to jail. So once again, very Blackistan mindset. Giselle also picked on Monique, who is another very pretty, young, up-and-coming MLS woman. So it's clear that Giselle is insecure about things like her looks, her age, and her relationship status, because anytime a beautiful young exotical comes along and she's happy in her relationship, or she's living a carefree lifestyle and she's confident, Giselle just has a desire to rain on that woman's parade. Giselle used to pick on Monique and tried to imply that Monique had no home, but Monique actually had 4 homes, while Giselle was renting a place. So it's very hypocritical for Giselle to come for other women's wealth when she herself was struggling. I've also noticed that Robin was kind of like a sidekick flunky to Giselle, but that's because Robin obviously has no personality. She's very introverted. She's not as witty and funny as the other girls. And Robin's relationship and finances are also in shambles, so she is just as insecure as Giselle. And she seems to kind of ride Giselle's coattails, hoping that she will get some fame and notoriety. But it's not working out for her. And I'm not a fan of Robin either, after the way she treated Katie when it came to Katie identifying herself and her children as biracials. Anyway, I may do a part 2 or use this show as a case study on the dynamics between multicultural MLS women versus monocultural MLS women, because it's very interesting. I've noticed that monocultural mixed women tend to feel more repressed, more triggered, and even jealous of multicultural mixed people who feel comfortable around all races of people. And it was actually funny because I remember there was one scene where Robin even made fun of Katie for dating white men. Well, I mean, Katie is half white, so why is it a problem that she dates white men? I mean, if she's dating men that come from her background, I don't understand why that's an issue. Isn't it better than dating a cheating Black man? Kind of like what Giselle was doing, or kind of like what Robin is doing. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that Robin's husband or boyfriend is an African American guy, or at least he's a culturally African American guy. Anyway, are you a monocultural mixed person? If so, the way to combat this insecurity is by studying your family history and enjoying the other side of your racial mix. You can travel to the countries where your family ancestry is from, you can try out the foods, you can listen to the music, you can learn the language, or even date someone from the other side of your racial mix. There are so many other ways to overcome insecurities, rather than just putting other women down. And honestly, this channel is not even supposed to be about putting women down. I'm just using these things as examples to highlight the hypocrisy that we see both in the Black and the mixed race community. What do you guys think of this? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.